Welcome back to the show where we run you through all the Dolphins news you need to know about. After running through the news you need to know about, we run you through the fan Q&A where we answer Dolphins fans' questions. If you guys hear the fan noise in the background, I'm sorry. I did everything I could to minimize the sound, to not make it so annoying. But I had to get an episode out this week. That's why this episode took so long to get out. Hopefully it's not too annoying. But let's get into the news you need to know about. And this first news story comes from Xavien Howard's Instagram. And it seems like this situation continues to get worse. I've been talking about this for the last 3 weeks. I feel like I've said everything I need to say about it, but it just continues to build. And it sucks that this is really the only news we have to talk about. And it just seems like we've been talking about it for so long. But again, it seems like the situation continues to get worse. And again, this comes from Xavien Howard's Instagram. He posted this on his Instagram. And if you're not familiar, obviously Xavien Howard and Dolphins and the Miami Dolphins as an organization are obviously on the relationship's definitely not going in a good direction at all. Xavien posted on his Instagram, "They won't realize how big a part you play until you're not there to play it." That's what he posted on his Instagram. And we also, to combine this story with other things that we've been getting updates on, stories from reports from Bleacher Report, ESPN, NFL.com, Michael Silver of NFL.com, all say there have been talks with other teams recently, and there are several teams interested in trading for Xavien Howard. So the whole thing about how a lot of teams won't be interested because of the contract situation, obviously that's not true. There's a whole lot of different angles you can go at this. I don't know what else to say other than here's the side of it that sucks as a Dolphins fan. The two best picks of the last 10 years seem to not even, are on their way out because of, disputes within the organization and disagreements within the organization. Like Xavien Howard, if he does leave, which it seems like he is, and then obviously Minkah Fitzpatrick. Those are the two best picks we've had in a very long time. They were supposed to be cornerstones of the defense. Obviously, both of them are first-team All-Pros, which is insane. We haven't had that good of luck in a long time in terms of drafting. And the fact that both of those guys hopefully won't be, but both of those guys are probably going to play for different teams is ridiculous. I mean, the fact that we've had such bad drafts for the last 10 years, I'm not talking about recently. I'm talking about, 2010 through 2018. Those drafts were not very good for the most part. And we hit big on two really good defensive players when you think about Minkah Fitzpatrick and Xavien Howard. And not just with those guys, but with some other players in that span of time too. And again, I'm talking about recently as a Dolphins fan. You let all these great players go. I mean, there's a list of them that have left this team that are good players. I mean, there's at least 5 that are not only Pro Bowlers, but they were really impactful and could have helped build, obviously, a great team. And it sucks that we lose 2, not just good, but great players in the span of 4 years that, like I said, are the 2 best draft picks this team has made in a very long time. And that's what sucks. Like, it sucks to see those guys go. They're great at what they do. And just when we started getting it going again, we're coming off a 10-win year. X is such a big part of the defense. It's not normal to get as many turnovers as he does. He's a special player. And it sucks, man. I don't know how else to say it. Like, reading the stuff today and yesterday, really, I don't know why. Maybe I just really didn't believe it. But I don't know. Today it really hit me that, man, he's probably leaving. And it kind of made me feel the same way when Minkah left. It just it hurts to see players like that go. It's been frustrating as a fan over the last 10 years. Watching this team and some of the players that they have let go and some of the bad decisions they've made, and to lose those 2 guys, it sucks. And to lose another one like X is, it just sucks. And I wish that this organization could just, and I just wish they could put aside the stupid Well, the normal thing is that you don't ever, go back on a contract that you sign and all that other stuff. I don't care about any of that. He's a great player. He's a first-team All-Pro. I feel like you could just look past all of it and try to get something done with him. And obviously that doesn't look like it's going to happen, but that's just my opinion on it. I feel like there could be some way that they could get him back, and it just doesn't look like it's going to happen, and it sucks. It sucks. It really, really does. It makes the team worse, and we don't know what they're going to get back, but it looks like it's going to be. I mean, all of the reports suggest, from ESPN to Michael Silver, who Michael Silver of NFL.com reported, that the Dolphins are looking for a first-round pick in return. And again, I would rather them go out and try to get maybe something for a piece on offense or something. I would rather them get a player in exchange, but it doesn't look like that's even going to happen. So I don't know. It's hard to. This is a hard one to swallow, and I'm sick of losing great players like this. I'm sick and tired of it. I wish he would have been a Dolphin for at least another 3 or 4 years. It sucks. It is what it is. But, people, when you look at it from different angles, and it's funny that so many teams want to trade for him, it's like, well, you can't set this precedent in the NFL that a player can pout and whine and cry this early into a deal when he just signed a deal. You can't set that. Well, all the other teams in the league clearly don't care about that. You know what they care about? They care about winning. That's what they care about. They care about winning. Okay? Why we as an organization can't look past all that, like all of those teams are going to look past it because they care about winning. Why can't we do that? Why can't we do that? I don't understand it. Why can't you look past it? Why can't you? Who cares what the normal thing is to do? Do what the right thing is to do, and that is to give him the money he wants. And I know I'm in the minority on that, and I know a lot of people don't believe that that's what they should do, but you're losing a great player. Who cares what he wants? Okay? He's in the prime of his career. These guys don't come around at all, especially players like him who are turnover machines, and it's a passing league. What do we hear about? If you look at the statistics, look at all the DBs getting drafted in the first round. It's more than any other era in the NFL. It's a passing league. Corners are valued more than they ever have been. And he's one of the best. And you're just going to let him go because you don't want to pay him more money? And he's the best pick you've ever made as a GM. You can make an argument that, him or Minka. But it doesn't make any sense to me, and I stand by that. That's my feelings on it, and I think it's frustrating and stupid. But they're gonna do what they're gonna do, and obviously X is gonna do what he's gonna do. I just hope at the end of the day they get a player in exchange for him that we can build around, that helps the team get better. I don't want to take another setback. We were riding high. We just won 10 games. I don't want to make this team worse. The AFC's got better this year. Every team in our division got better. Every single one of them. This move is going to hurt this team. It just is. I don't think the team will be bad, but it definitely isn't going to be as good as it could have been. And that sucks. That really sucks, man. If we want to win the title this year, and not I'm talking about an AFC East title, which we haven't done in over 10 years, then he needs to be on the team. Unless they get somehow they get something in exchange for him who can at least be a little, like, a good starting corner. I don't know what they're going to do. I trust in Brian and his ability to, to make a lot out of nothing. I think he's earned that. So I'm not going to overreact to this. The Dolphins do have a lot of depth at that position. This defense would have been special, and it sucks that we're never going to see that with all of these guys together. And, Byron wasn't healthy last year. We never got to see these two healthy and 100% for a 16-game season. I guess now a 17-game season, which is also a bummer. So it's it is what it is. There's nothing that at this point it looks like it's kind of a foregone conclusion. I know a lot of you guys don't really. Like, oh, who cares? X is he's won any crime. He's in the wrong. I don't agree with that. I know people, and I know that sounds crazy, but to me, if there's a bunch of other teams willing to do it, then why can't we do it? And that's the thing that bothers me the most. So it is what it is. It sucks that some other team's gonna look past that and just be like, here's your money. And we can't do that for whatever reason. And it's not a logical one, because a logical move would be to just sign him and win more games. And that's, I don't know. It is what it is. So, in other news, the Dolphins re-signed Isaiah Ford to the roster, which is kind of crazy when I heard this news. I don't understand really he's a nice player. I don't even know how to really categorize Isaiah Ford. And these are the two people that they let go. They let go of Brian Cole, and another safety that I can't remember. I think it was another safety. Oh, center. It was a center and a safety that they waived for Isaiah Ford. And they already are stacked to the gills with receivers, and they obviously waived a center, but Isaiah Ford has been a solid rotational receiver for the last 2 years, and really I don't see him. I don't know. It's gonna be really tough for him to make the team. I don't really understand this one. I don't really feel like he will make the team. But we'll see. I'm very excited for preseason because, there's a lot of interesting positions that have a lot of depth at that. The center battle is going to be super interesting between Dieter and Skura. The receiver battles are going to be super interesting. Some of the linebacker stuff there. There's a lot of interesting stuff. Just, where Jalen Phillips is really going to fit in. There's so much stuff to look forward to. Excuse me. So, at least, I'm looking forward to that for sure. But again, this receiver core is just insane. There's so many interesting players at that position. So that's it, ladies and gentlemen. I know it's crazy, but that's it for the news. And we got to get into the fan Q&A, which is crazy. There's just not a lot there. I'm obviously very close to training camp, so hopefully more stuff comes in there. We could talk about more stuff when that comes around. This first story. Losing my mind. This first question comes from Ethan. He says, "Hey Skaggs, who makes the final roster as far as tight ends, wide receivers, and DBs go? Every time I try to do this, I feel like I end up cutting some very good players." This is my point. I think I can just tell you who the starting guys will be. I think Preston Williams, Devontae Parker. I shouldn't even have started with Preston. Let me restart. Will Fuller. Obviously, Will Fuller. These are the guys I have. Let me put it this way. Let me back it up, Ethan. Let me back it up. This is the guys I feel that will make the team for sure at those positions. Receivers, Preston, I think is going to make the team. Devontae Parker, Will Fuller. Obviously, Jalen Waddle. I think those guys are locks. Everyone after that, like Lynn Bowden, Jakeem Grant, Albert Wilson, Alan Hearns, those guys are kind of on the bubble, I feel like. Any one of those guys can make it, and the other guys don't. But I think Preston, DP, Jalen, obviously, and Will are obviously locks. And after that, I think it's pretty much a crapshoot. And then for tight ends, I think not Hunter Henry. I don't know why I said Hunter Henry. What's his? I'm forgetting it's one of my favorite players of the draft. What's his name? Hunter Long, right? I don't know why I forgot his name. Hunter Long. I think Hunter Long is definitely going to make the team. Hunter Long, obviously Mike Gesicki. I think Shaheen is making, even though we've heard some things that maybe he won't. But I feel like I like Shaheen. I think he is going to make the team. And I wouldn't be surprised if we do 4, but maybe not. And I think Smythe. But people forget we signed Mel Blount's kid, who was a former basketball player. He's also in that tight end group. We'll see what he can do. Don't sleep on him. He could turn into something. He's a big player, athletic, obviously, with the basketball background. Obviously super raw, but maybe they want to keep him around to develop him. So there's a lot there, but I think Shaheen's gonna make the team. I actually think Smythe might make the team as well. He actually had a pretty solid season last year. They both did. There was a lot of production from that position, and I could see them keeping Hunter, get Mike, and then Shaheen for sure. I think Smythe, and obviously I think what's his name, Gil Blount. I don't remember the Mel Blount's son. We'll see what happens with him. He's going to be another interesting watch in preseason. But I can see all of those guys making it. And DBs, that's a tough question. I don't even know now. I'm gonna have to answer that question after X leaves. And then we'll see what we're working with there. But I would imagine if X leaves, then Igbinoghene would be moved into the starting lineup. Maybe they go crazy and put Javon Holland at one of the starting corner positions, just as a permanent. I know they want to move him around, but maybe that if X does leave, they move him at one of those starting positions. I could see that happening. Brandon Jones, I could see playing in the slot. I could see that happening. There's a lot of different things that they could do there. It's a really good question that it's very tough to answer. The DBs is a hard one, especially, it's kind of a wait and see on the DBs. This next question comes from Adrian. He says, "Sup, Skags, the Dolphins have built depth in a relatively short time of the rebuild. Which position group do you feel has expendable pieces that might be trade-worthy to a team needy of that position and loaded at one we need? What positions and or players can be a viable swap, even with picks?" Well, I don't think you can do that with a lot of the guys on the roster. And the only roster position, maybe not even at tight end, because most teams know that someone's going to get cut. And we've heard that a million times when it comes to training camp, that it's more of a wait-and-see thing. So the guys that are that you could trade for at this time are more high-value starters. You're not going to be able to move Albert Wilson. You're not going to be able to move Allen Hurns. You're not going to be able to move Lynn Bowden. You can't move Shaheen. You can't move some of those guys because everybody's just gonna wait for those guys to get let go anyway, because they know you're gonna have to make a decision. So you can't really trade any of those guys, and get anything unless you're gonna trade, like I said, a high-end guy that's a starter. Other than that, I don't think you're gonna be able to answer your question, Adrian. I don't think you're gonna be able to move any of those guys. But it's a good question, though. The Dolphins have built depth in a relatively short time of rebuild. Which position group do you feel has it? Here's what I will say. Receiver is definitely the most expendable. It's not even close. That positional group has the most expendable pieces, to answer your question. But in terms of trading, I don't think you're going to be able to move any of those guys. This question comes from TR3MC. He says, "Hey, Skags, when it comes to building an offense for and around a player like Tua, do you think he has some say in certain decisions like OC's playbook, etc.? No, I don't. Not now. He's too young. But if he, obviously becomes something, yes. I think he has some input on players. We heard that he had some input on some of the Alabama guys and stuff like that. But I don't think, maybe on, every quarterback has an input on their plays and what plays they like to run and stuff like that. But I don't think he had any input on the decisions that were made at offensive coordinator. But not now, TR3MC, but I could see that happening in the future. This next question comes from Don. He says, "Hi, Jay Grant IMO could help with extra 3 or 4 games as a returner. You think he should stay on the team?" Yeah, I mean, if as a returner, sure, but I don't think he's going to give you any. As a receiver, he's not good depth, which makes the roster decisions that much harder, because it's like, what do you really do with it? I mean, if he's just catching punts and kicks, it's not normal. Usually, other than like Devin Hester, I can't think of another player that. I mean, maybe like I guess Cordell Patterson's more of a utility guy. Dwayne Harris was like that for a while. Or is it? I think is it Dwayne Harris? Maybe it's another name that starts with a D. But the longtime Dallas Cowboys returner, he was like that. So I guess you can do it. So yeah, I could. Jakeem's best role is that. It's not even close. He's not a good receiver at all. This question comes from Don. He says, if we trade or release Mike G, it allows tight ends we have on contract for next year's to develop faster. Also, saves a lot of money and a roster spot. I disagree with that. I think that's someone again, this is something that I just, with this team and this organization, pay some people. If we're going to get rid of Xavien Howard, Mike better come back next year. Because, that would be crazy. If you talk about taking 2 steps back, getting rid of those 2 guys in the span of 2 seasons would just be stupid. So if X leaves, they have no excuse not to bring him back. They have cap space next year. So I disagree with that. I think they should keep Mike around. And they have the money, to answer your question, Don. This next question comes from Bobby. He says, who's the most underrated contributor on this defense? I still stand by Jerome Baker. Brandon Jones is up there, and all the things that he does for the defense. Jerome Baker is very underrated, though. I think he does a lot for this defense. So does Brandon Jones. He's a great piece. He's a great rotational piece. And all, you can do tons of things with him. And he's a matchup nightmare. And that's what, Brian loves, and obviously Bill Belichick loves, is just moving around pieces that are obviously very versatile, because his defense is very versatile, and those 2 guys fit that to a T. So they're huge assets to this defense. So I think those 2 are very underrated because of that. Had a very underrated rookie year. Thanks, Skaggs, for all you do. This next question comes from KC Fanatic. Thank you for saying that. He says, I wonder how much of our last 10 wins was due to Fitzmagic's veteran ability / leadership and Howard's interceptions. We may not have had either player this year. I'm concerned. Are you? No. No. I'm not concerned. I think Brian's a great leader, and I think Fitz was a big deal, and that can't be understated. But Tua, from everything that we heard, is a great leader too. And Tua started in games and won 6 of them, so you got to keep that in mind as well. He won a good chunk of the 10. This next question comes from Don. I'm sorry, I don't know why I was scrolling down. So I'm not concerned to answer your question, Casey. This next question comes from Don. He says, hi. In Liam's presser, he said he'd play any spot. What you think about Jackson, Dieter, Liam? Oh, Jackson at tackle, Dieter guard, Liam center, Kinley guard, Hunter right tackle. This saves probably $5 million per year for 4 years on the center. No, I'm not a huge fan of that lineup. I think what they're doing with Hunt in terms of moving him inside, I think that's a great idea. I would rather have Eichenberg and Austin on the outside, and then you can really just do whatever you want inside. I mean, Dieter can play inside. You forget about Jesse Davis, who can also play inside. He might play some center. So there's a lot of different things you can do inside, and it's really just for the center and guard spot opposite Hunt, because Hunt we know is going to play guard. Those other 2 spots are wide open. I mean, it's a very competitive position. And who knows, Davis might end up playing tackle and they move Eichenberg inside. So there's a lot of different things that they can do. But I think I like Hunt inside and then Jackson and Eichenberg on the outside. Even though Eichenberg is a rookie, so I could see them moving him inside, which I'm not knocking. I think that's not a bad thing. I mean, Jesse Davis at tackle is fine. This next question comes from Jack Pack. He says, I don't know about you, but I really want to see Miami beat Baltimore. Not just beat them, but get Coach Flo some revenge for his first NFL game. If this team can do that and split with the Bills, I'd say the rebuild is on track. I mean, yeah, that would be awesome. I mean, we haven't beat the Ravens in a long time. I think the last time we beat the Ravens is when Matt Schaub was starting for them at quarterback, I believe. Yeah, so it's been a minute. I know maybe Flacco did play that game, and that's the year that they went they won 3 or 4 games. I can't remember. I think it was Matt Schaub, though. I remember Bobby McCain getting mossed by one of the tight ends. I don't remember who it was. It was a very low-scoring game. That's that game that Devontae Parker had that sick catch over Ladarius Webb. It was a very low-scoring game. Ethan says, this question comes from Ethan. He says, hey, Skaggs, if you could go to any game this year, which game would you go to? Man, that's a tough question. I would probably say any of the divisional, inter-division AFC East games I would go to. Those games are great, whether it's the Jets, Bills. I'd probably go to the Bills game in Miami. I think that's probably... I'm very excited about that, because that's the measuring stick. If we get one in Miami, then we're set. So that's a big, big game. It's a very big deal. The New England home game is a huge deal, too. So those 2 games are probably very high on my list, but I would say the Bills game. This question comes from Ahmed. He says, we mentioned the Jason article 2 weeks ago. Jeez. Okay, hold on. I gotta move this closer. Stating that B-Flow is on the hot seat, on the seat. Brian Flores has had a chance to gut the roster and make multiple first and second picks over the course of 3 years, and 2 years. The third year has not started yet. And chose his quarterback to be Tua over Herbert. Yes, his record is stellar, but if Tua is not the answer, the hot seat belongs to B-Flow. No, Lord, no. I think besides the Niners, Raiders, Cardinals, Titans, and Finns, this Finns team / coaching regime has the most writing on the season, and Flores is the face of the franchise. Either he shoulders the accountability if there is a regression in the team record without fits, or Greer does so. Someone has to be on the hot seat if Tua isn't the answer. If the team is forced to turn to Deshaun Watson next year and there is no accountability for the Tua pick, that's not good. Question. Okay, let me answer the first thing first. Before we continue to read. That's ridiculous. He's been great. You cannot fire Brian because Tua didn't work. That doesn't make any sense. Brian has been great. He's been outstanding. Okay, he's been the best thing that's happened to this Dolphins organization in the last 16 years. I mean, I can't even remember. Maybe 20 years. But I can tell you for a fact he's the best thing that's happened to this team last 14, 15 years. It's not even close. I mean, you hear that from other organizations. This is the best Dolphins team we've heard that since Jimmy Johnson. We've heard people say that. So to fire Brian over Tua would be ridiculous. He's going into his 3rd season, for God's sake. So no, he's definitely not on the hot seat and should not be on the hot seat. And yes, he's earned the right to be like, this isn't working with this quarterback, and moving on. That's not that big of a deal. That's not the end all be all. That's not something he should be judged upon. And we don't even know yet. So with Tua. So it's more of a wait and see thing. So I disagree with you, Ahmed. I don't think that. And I don't think he is on the hot seat. He goes on to say, he says this is his second question. He says, question, which non-rookie player is primed for the biggest breakout in 21? O-lineman, Van Ginkel, one of the DTs. Is that hope that is Noah's now the ex Howard trade chatter is going on as of today's report. Question, which non-rookie is primed for a breakout? That's a great question. Van Ginkel, I would say, is pretty high on the list. Brandon Jones, those two come to mind. I think out of all the guys that needs to step up the most, it's Igbenogany. It's not even close. You know, we forget, because we had 3 first-round picks. He was a first-round pick. So, hello, you know what I mean? Let's hopefully his development is going in the right direction, because we're definitely going to need it. So that, I think, out of all the rookies, he's the guy that needs to step up the most. I would say the two guys that come to mind is Van Ginkel. Austin Jackson comes to mind. He had obviously a good rookie year. Brandon Jones is another one. I think he's a very talented player. So I could see him making big leaps as well. But Van Ginkel has a lot to benefit from, because the front seven is better than it was a year ago. That was a very good question. That was a good question, Armand. This next question comes from Steven. He says, this is a good one. He says, I think a lot of fans are going to be disappointed in the trade offers the Dolphins get for X. The Ramsey trade was more household. He was more of a household name. Historically, quarterbacks rarely get traded for a first-round pick. Well, hopefully we can get a proven player in return for X, or trade him for a future first-round pick. And at the very least, it will be insurance in case Tua doesn't play well, and then we can control the trade market for Watson, Wilson, and Rodgers. That's a great point. If there is a silver lining to this, it is the fact that if it is a first-round pick, that's the best idea I've heard. Like, I didn't even think about it that way. You're right. At least there's that. If it is a first-round pick, we can, obviously pedal that into hopefully we don't have to do that, though. Like, it's like, that's not a good, like, that's a bad, if we have to do that, then that means it didn't work out with Tua. So even that's not great, so the whole thing sucks. I mean, the entire thing is, I don't want to have to hope for that, and I definitely don't want to. But you make a good point. It is insurance in case Tua doesn't work out. So at the very least, it's that. This next question comes from Mark. He says, record prediction. I don't predict records ever. It's a superstitious thing. I don't know. I've never. It's a superstitious thing. But all great questions today, guys. I thank you. I'm sorry this episode didn't get out very soon. And hopefully the fan wasn't too bad. Hopefully we'll get more news on the X thing. I do want a resolution at this point, because at this point it's like, I don't have to go through the entire training camp thinking, is he gonna leave? Like, I just hopefully it gets figured out, And again, I go back to the thing. I don't want to be negative, but it's a negative thing. Those are the two best players we've had in a very long time, and just to see them play in different uniforms at that age hurts, man. Like, they're not old; they're in their prime, and it sucks to see them play for different teams. And hopefully it'll get figured out. Hopefully he'll stay. Hopefully they can figure something out. It's weird because we heard the report earlier that he might still show up to training camp, and now, like, whatever happened, it seems like it's like there's no goodwill left, which sucks, but I don't know what to believe anymore. But that's it, ladies and gentlemen. It's, not the greatest news in the world, but hopefully they can figure it out. I hope the fan wasn't too bad, and thank you guys for your support, and everybody who put their questions down in the fan Q&A, and I'll see you guys in the next one.